there's a number of different cuts that we want to make when we're pruning. Broadly speaking, we have cuts where we're trying to redirect the flow of energy along a particular path, or we have cuts where we're trying to branch that energy. So this is the first cut. It's called a heading cut. And I think the first thing to look at is an individual shoot. So like we talked about at different points, this branch has got 2 years worth of growth. So from this point forward, this is last year's growth, right? These are all regenerative buds along here. So they're leaf buds. And you can tell that because they're pointy and close to the branch. As we go back past this growth point, we have these here, these fat buds on the end of these little spurs, and that's our flower wood. So when we're doing a heading cut, what we're trying to do is to make a cut at a 45-degree angle with an outward facing bud to create some branching and fill a space. So basically I'll make a cut and then I kind of explain it again. So, we'll do this one first. So if I'm going to do a 45-degree, here's the bud, or here's another one pointing downwards. But for illustration, I would cut at a 45-degree angle, like so. And the bud now is going this way. If I roll it over, you can see that 45-degree angle. So the bottom of the cut is roughly equivalent to the bottom of that bud. And then the angle is essentially on the same angle as that growth. So that's the cut, that's the 45 degrees. Now there's the question of where do we want to make a cut like this? So remove that just for clarity. So what we're doing with a heading cut is we're trying to branch out growth. So essentially equivalent to what we take away is going to replace itself with new shoots off the side. So if my body was the tree, or my hand is the tree, and say I've got nothing on either side, what I want to do is cut at somewhere where I've got a downward or outward facing bud that'll create branching to fill this negative space. So in this shoot, what I'm going to do is I choose this one, and I'm going to cut at that 45-degree angle. And now what's going to happen is this is going to give me a strong shoot, this one and this one is going to give me a strong shoot. In an ideal scenario, I maybe wouldn't like this top one. I'm just going to pick it out. But so what I can do now, I'm going to get branching here, here, and here, and I'm going to fill this space. So in the future, what I'm going to get is something going to end up looking like a crow's foot. The other thing that is important to note there, this piece that I took away at the top, it contains the terminal bud, which is where the oxygen is being produced, and it monopolizes all the nutrient to continue growing forward and away. So by taking that away, that's what enables each one of these to compete to take over that primacy. So that's the heading cut. And maybe one thing I could just add is here is a branch. If I was going to apply the heading cuts to this area here, this is what it would look like. Right now I've got a last year's shoot, last year's shoot, last year's shoot. It's got that crowfoot I was talking about. There's the 3 cuts. This one there was a cut made somewhere in here, and I've got 2. Now if I'm going to work this branch, I would go through like this and make heading cuts all the way around, looking for an outward facing bud. We cut that one. And what I'm end up with here is I have that pattern, and these are going to branch out and fill in this area, and this one will continue on and keep going. It'll do a little bit of branching. So now I'm going to have a tight cluster of branches here, here, and here, and that'll help fill in the space around that. In a different situation, we've got this one up here. This is like if this is the top of your tree, right? Rather than being on an angle and getting this classic crowfoot, I might want to branch it out and send a same kind of cut. I cut a 45-degree angle, but I'll cut it tight, and I'm going to get branching, giving you more of a goblet kind of a formation here. So like right at the top of the tree, I'm going to have 3 branches here. And so like in this situation, when you're dealing with a single leader, right, and you're trying to like set that new level when you're doing formative pruning, that's what I'd be doing. Make that cut. Now I'm going to get these branches out here, and eventually it's going to help us build some shape like we've got in this tree behind it. We would have made a heading cut here, created that branch, and now we're doing it on a big scale, right? So that's where you apply heading cuts. And that basically, The other thing I note about a heading cut, you do them often. It's a way to finish when you're doing your pruning, like we did on the apple. You finish your pruning by doing your heading cuts because you don't want anything to get too long. But it also, heading cuts over time, that's what gives us structure, right? Because we're always branching and then we can thin out other parts. And so that's the broad context of how heading works.